Hello friends, welcome to a new topic today. In this chapter, let us now learn about pyridoxine. Pyridoxine is vitamin B6. Pyridoxine. Pyridoxine is a primary alcohol which is derived from plants. Pyridoxal aldehyde and pyridoxamine. Pyridoxal aldehyde and pyridoxamine. These two are derived from the animal foods, whereas pyridoxine is a primary alcohol derived from plants. Transamination. So this pyridoxal phosphate is mainly used in transamination. So if you see this pyridoxine, this activation of pyridoxine to pyridoxal phosphate. So this pyridoxine gets converted to pyridoxal or pyridoxamine. The pyridoxal, in the presence of pyridoxal kinase, it gets converted to pyridoxal phosphate. During this process, ATP gets converted to ADP. Whereas pyridoxamine, in the presence of kinase, it forms pyridoxamine phosphate. Pyridoxamine phosphate also, in this process, ATP gets converted to ADP. Then this pyridoxal phosphate and pyridoxamine phosphate, both these will form pyridoxic acid. First, transamination. So pyruvate, in the presence of alanine transaminase, is converted into alanine. Similarly, pyruvate gets converted to acetyl-CoA. This is Krebs cycle, where pyruvate gets converted to acetyl-CoA, acetyl-CoA to citrate, citrate to alpha-ketoglutarate, alpha-ketoglutarate to succinyl-CoA, then to oxaloacetate. This oxaloacetate, in the presence of aspartate transaminase, it gets converted to aspartate. During this process, pyridoxal phosphate is used. So pyridoxal phosphate is used in two reactions: one, pyruvate to alanine transamination, and oxaloacetate to aspartic acid transamination. Then what about niacin enzymes? What are niacin enzymes? In this niacin enzymes are for the production of niacin enzymes like NADP and NADPH. For this production also pyridoxal phosphate is used. Tryptophan gets converted to 3-hydroxykynurenine. This 3-hydroxykynurenine gets converted to 3-hydroxyantranilic acid. During this process, kynurenine is the enzyme and pyridoxal phosphate is the coenzyme. Then we have heme synthesis. In heme synthesis also pyridoxal phosphate is used. Glycine combines with succinyl-CoA to form delta aminolevulinic acid. The enzyme used is delta aminolevulinic acid synthase, and coenzyme is pyridoxal phosphate. Then transsulfation. Methionine gets converted to homocysteine. This homocysteine, in the presence of PLP and cystathione synthase along with the serine, it forms cystathione. This cystathione gives rise to cysteine and homoserine. Okay, it cleaves into cysteine and homoserine. This cysteine, in the presence of decarboxylase enzyme, it forms taurine. For this decarboxylase, PLP, pyridoxal phosphate, is used. Then PLP is also used in decarboxylation reactions, like histidine gets converted to histamine with decarboxylation, glutamate gets converted to GABA, tryptophan forms 5-hydroxytryptophan. This 5-hydroxytryptophan undergoes decarboxylation and forms 5-hydroxytryptamine. Now tyrosine gets converted to DOPA. This DOPA, in the presence of in the presence of PLP and decarboxylation, it forms dopamine. Dopamine can give rise to epinephrine, norepinephrine to epinephrine. So these are how decarboxylation is used, and for decarboxylation pyridoxal phosphate is a coenzyme. Then pyridoxal phosphate is the coenzyme which is synthesized from pyridoxine, pyridoxal or pyridoxamine. This pyridoxal phosphate is also used in transamination. In this transamination, amino acid will form keto acid. and this keto acid can be used in Krebs cycle. So if you see PLP plus amino acid, pyridoxal phosphate combines with amino acid and it forms KIF base. This KIF base this KIF base again gets converted to pyridoxamine phosphate and keto acid. So amino group of amino acid gets combined with pyridoxal phosphate and it forms pyridoxamine phosphate. This pyridoxal phosphate is also used for the absorption of amino acid from intestine. Adequate intake of vitamin B6 prevent hyperoxaluria and stone formation. So it has two more uses, that is absorption of amino acids and prevention of stone formation. Then if you see recommended dietary allowance of pyridoxamine is 2 to 2.2 milligram per day in adults. So this is increases in pregnancy or lactation or in old age to 2.5 milligram per day. If it is less than 0.22 milligram per day, then that is deficiency. Dietary sources include eggs, yolk, fish, milk, meat are rich sources, whereas other sources like wheat, corn, cabbage, roots, tubers, legumes and nuts also have pyridoxal phosphate. So what about the deficiency of pyridoxal phosphate? Pyridoxal phosphate deficiency leads to, first it leads to epithelial changes. In infants, if you see, it causes diarrhea, seizures and anemia. Anemia is mainly, it causes microcytic hypochromic anemia. Why? Because pyridoxal phosphate is important for the production of heme. Because of pyridoxal phosphate deficiency, there is decreased hemoglobin synthesis, and thus that causes microcytic hypochromic anemia. It also causes platelet dysfunction. Then what are the other defects associated with this pyridoxal phosphate deficiency? One, there is oxaluria. How is there oxaluria? See, glyoxylate gets converted to oxalic acid in the presence of glyoxylate transaminase, alanine glyoxylate aminotransferase or transaminase. So this aminotransferase is not effective due to deficiency of PLP, thus causing oxaluria, because this oxalate is excreted in urine. Glyoxylate is excreted in urine. Then we have homocysteine conversion to cystathione PLP is used, right? Because of this deficiency, this homocysteine is increased, that is, it causes hyperhomocysteinemia, which increases the risk of cerebrovascular syndrome. Then we have xanthine-uric aciduria. This xanthine-uric aciduria shows defective kynureninase. Because of defective kynureninase enzyme, it causes xanthine-uric aciduria. Then because of homocysteinemia, there is cerebrovascular side effects and even severe side risks also, like risks to MI, stroke is also increased due to homocysteinemia. And then the drugs, like these drugs are very important, like L-dopa, isoniazid, penicillamide and cycloserine. L-dopa, levodopa, isoniazid, penicillamide and cycloserine, all these will interact with PLP and thus decreases the pyridoxine activity. Because of decreased pyridoxine activity, all these will lead to side effect, that is peripheral neuropathy. And this will also increase the sensitivity of estrogens and androgens and cortisol and vitamin D. Because of this increased sensitivity of estrogen, androgen and cortisol and vitamin D, it causes hormone dependent carcinoma of breast, uterus and prostate. It predisposes to carcinoma of breast, uterus and prostate. So these are the main risk factors due to pyridoxal phosphate deficiency. Then it also increases C-reactive protein. Increased C-reactive protein is seen. Increased ALT and AST to ALT ratio is seen, that is especially in alcoholic liver disease. Okay, this reflects the vitamin B6 dependent ALT. Okay, then if you see lab levels, we will have to do biochemical assay for vitamin B6, that is, you should measure the activity of erythrocyte transaminase activity, we can do tryptophan load test. See, if you give tryptophan, it gets converted to xanthine urine. For the excretion or for the breakdown of xanthine urine, PLP, for pyridoxal phosphate, is necessary. But here, due to the absence of pyridoxal phosphate, this xanthine uric acid is excreted, which has been measured. Then we have to measure pyridoxal phosphate level in the blood. So for vitamin B6 biochemical assay, we can give erythrocyte transaminase activity. Then we can do tryptophan load test and PLP. Then how are you going to treat it? Treatment is, you will have to give vitamin B6 orally, that is 100 to 200 milligrams of vitamin B6 orally you should give. In some cases you should give higher doses of pyridoxine, is also important. This higher doses of pyridoxine is given in carpal tunnel syndrome, premenstrual syndrome, schizophrenia and diabetic neuropathy. High dose of pyridoxine is given in carpal tunnel syndrome, premenstrual syndrome, schizophrenia and diabetic neuropathy. Then we have vitamin B6 dependent syndromes also, but these are seen to be rare. What are they? The vitamin B6 dependent syndromes can also occur due to pyridoxal deficiency. They are cystathione beta synthase deficiency. Cystathione beta synthase deficiency also increases homocystinuria, thus predisposing to stroke. Then pyridoxine responsive anemia. This is due to ALA synthase defect because of pyridoxal phosphate deficiency, leading to ALA synthase being abnormal, thus ALA is not formed, that is delta aminolevulinic acid is not formed, thus leading to anemia, which can be sideroblastic anemia. Okay, third, there is gyrate atrophy with chorioretinal degeneration. Gyrate atrophy with chorioretinal degeneration is due to the increased activity of the enzyme ornithine transaminase. Ornithine aminotransferase, whenever this activity is increased, it causes gyrate atrophy of gyrate atrophy with chorioretinal degeneration. Okay, so these are the other syndromes which are associated with vitamin B6. Then what happens if there is toxicity? Toxicity, the safer upper limit of is 100 milligram per day is the safer upper limit. No side effects is reported with food intake, but there are several side effects reported which include severe sensory neuropathy, that is patient is unable to walk. Sometimes photosensitivity is seen and dermatitis is reported. So these are the different toxic subtoxic manifestations which are seen due to pyridoxine. Then the next vitamin which is important is biotin or vitamin H or vitamin B7. So this biotin is an anti egg white injury factor. It is also called as anti egg white injury factor. It is a sulfur containing B complex vitamin. So in this you have heterocyclic sulfur ring, that is thiophene ring. You have heterocyclic sulfur ring which is thiophene ring attached to imidazole, and this thiophene ring also contains a monocarboxylic thiophene ring also contains a monocarboxylic acid which binds with lysine in the enzyme. This monocarboxylic acid will bind to lysine in the enzyme. Now what is the reactive form? Reactive form is enzyme bound carboxybiotin is the reactive form. Enzyme bound carboxybiotin is the reactive form. This biotin also covalently binds to the lysine, that to epsilon amino group of lysine, and it forms something called as biocytin. Biotin also covalently binds to epsilon amino group of lysine, and it forms biocytin, which is the coenzyme of biotin. Then if you see the biochemical functions, the biochemical functions in this biotin is the carrier of carbon dioxide. In carboxylation reactions, it is actually a carrier of carbon dioxide, biotin. In carboxylation reactions, gluconeogenesis of citric acid cycle, we have biotin, which is used in the conversion of pyruvate to oxaloacetate in the presence of the enzyme pyruvate carboxylase. In fatty acid synthesis, acetyl CoA gets converted to malonyl CoA in the presence of biotin and acetyl CoA carboxylase. And propionyl CoA in the presence of biotin and propionyl CoA carboxylase is converted to methyl malonyl CoA. Beta methyl crotonyl CoA in the presence of biotin and beta methyl crotonyl CoA carboxylase, this beta methyl crotonyl CoA is converted to beta methyl glutaryl CoA, and this conversion is very important in leucine metabolism. Okay, now what about the RDA? RDA recommended dietary allowance in adult, it is 100 to 300 milligram per day, and this is normally synthesized in intestinal bacteria. This biotin is normally synthesized by intestinal bacteria. It is also present in liver, kidney. It is also present. The sources of this biotin include liver, kidney, egg yolk, milk, tomato and grain. There are some reactions which are called as we can call them as biotin independent carboxylation reactions. Most of the reactions are done by biotin carboxylation reactions, but there are some biotin independent carboxylation reactions. So what are they? The biotin independent carboxylation reactions include, we have carbamoyl phosphate synthase 1 and 2, addition of carbon dioxide to C6 ring in purine ring, that is AIR carboxylase, then malic enzyme or pyruvate to malate. So these are biotin independent carboxylation reactions. Then what do you do? What about the deficiency of biotin? The deficiency of biotin, the main etiology of deficiency of biotin is the intake of raw egg. In the raw egg, there is a protein called as avidin which will inhibit the biotin. In inborn errors of metabolism, or whenever there is destruction of intestinal flora by sulfonamides, because biotin is mainly produced by the intestinal flora, right, and as a result, because of destruction of this intestinal flora, so it does not, biotin is not produced properly. So all these leads to the deficiency of biotin. So actually low dietary intake does not lead to deficiency of biotin. So low dietary intake does not lead to deficiency of biotin. Next, there are some mental changes can occur due to deficiency of biotin. Clinical features like mental changes which include hallucination, depression, paresthesia, anorexia and nausea are seen. And scaling seborrheic erythematous rash occurs around the nose, around the eyes, nose, mouth and extremities is seen due to biotin deficiency. Biotin deficiency leads to rash like scaling seborrheic erythematous rash is seen around the eyes, nose, mouth and extremities. In infants, it can also lead to hypotonia, lethargy, apathy and alopecia. Rash including ears is seen. Okay, in laboratory examination, if you have to do, you see, you will have to look for decreased urinary concentration of biotin and increased urinary excretion of 3-hydroxy isovaleric acid after leucine challenge. Okay, in the leucine metabolism, if you remember, biotin is involved in leucine metabolism. I'll show you. Yeah, in this leucine metabolism, biotin is involved. If biotin is deficiency, this chemical which is beta methyl crotonyl CoA is increased. So here this so there is urinary excretion of 3-hydroxy isovaleric acid is also increased, which is also a metabolite of leucine metabolism. Okay, so how are you going to treat it? Treatment is you should give biotin up to 10 milligram per day. Okay, then we have something called as avidin in the egg. In the egg, if you see, there is something called as avidin. Okay, this avidin will combine, the affinity of avidin to biotin is stronger than many antigen antibody reactions, and that is used in ELISA and labeling of DNA. In the ELISA and labeling of DNA, we can use the affinity of avidin and biotin. Then if you see in raw egg, the glycoprotein avidin, this binds with the biotin and it forms avidin biotin and thus blocks intestinal absorption, leading to deficiency of biotin. So whenever one takes almost 20 raw eggs per day, that will lead to biotin deficiency. So we should not encourage the people to take raw eggs. Then we have something called as streptovidin also. This streptovidin is also an antagonist which binds to 4 molecules of biotin. This streptomidin is purified from Streptomyces avidini. It is purified from Streptomyces avidini and it binds to 4 molecules of biotin. Then we have some biotin antagonists also like desthiobiotin and biotin sulfonic acid. We have biotin antagonists like desthiobiotin and biotin sulfonic acid. No toxicity is recommended, is seen in biotin. Okay. Now next vitamin is about pantothenic acid. So this pantothenic acid is also called as chick dermatitis factor. Okay, so this pantothenic acid has two things in it. One, it has the pantothenic acid which is attached to beta alanine. Okay, so if you see, this is pantothenic acid which has a phosphate bridge attached to adenylate at one end, and at the other end it has beta mercaptoethanolamine, also called as thioethanolamine, is seen at the other end. Then if you see, first it has pantothenic acid in the presence of ATP and getting converted to ADP, it forms 4-phosphopantothenate. This 4-phosphopantothenate along with cysteine, this 4-phosphopantothenate along with cysteine, it forms 4-phosphopantothenyl cysteine. This 4-phosphopantothenyl cysteine in the presence of it forms 4-phosphopentathene. This 4-phosphopentathene gets converted to D-phospho coenzyme A in the presence of ATP, and during this process ATP gets converted to inorganic phosphate. This D-phospho coenzyme A forms coenzyme A. So this is the process of pantothenic acid forming into its active component, that is coenzyme A. What is the required dietary allowance of pantothenic acid? That is less than 0.2 milligram per deciliter. If RDA is less than 0.2 milligrams, then it causes symptoms. If RDA normally in adults, it should be around 5 to 10 milligrams in adults. Okay. Then if you see, there is SH group which is important, that is the reactive site here. Where is this SH end? In the mercaptoethanolamine we have the SH end, and that SH end is more reactive subunit. And here if you see, coenzyme A gets combined to acyl group to form acyl CoA. So this is one of the reaction. So it is most commonly seen in it is most commonly found in dietary sources like liver, yeast, egg yolk, whole grains and vegetables. This pyruvate in the presence of coenzyme A, that to pyruvate dehydrogenase it forms acetyl CoA. Alpha ketoglutarate gets converted to succinyl CoA in the presence of coenzyme A, and alpha ketoglutarate dehydrogenase has enzyme. Then we have fatty acid in the presence of coenzyme A or thiokinase, it forms acyl CoA. Succinyl CoA gets combines with acetate and it forms acetyl CoA and succinate in the presence of coenzyme A. Acetyl CoA plus choline, it forms acetylcholine plus coenzyme A. Acyl CoA combines with oxaloacetate. Acetyl CoA gets combined with oxaloacetate to form acetate and to form citrate and coenzyme A. So this is acetyl CoA. I'll write with this color. Better. Acetyl CoA combines with oxaloacetate and it forms citrate and coenzyme A. So this acetyl CoA is mainly used in the acetylation of proteins. Okay, so how are you going to Diagnosis is mainly by low urinary levels of coenzyme A or pantothenic acid. Deficiency of this pantothenic acid causes a syndrome which is called as burning feet syndrome or nutritional melalgia or peripheral nerve damage. It is called as burning feet syndrome, nutritional melalgia and peripheral nerve damage. This is non-specific and it causes GI disturbances. It causes symptoms like GI disturbances, depression, muscle cramps because of peripheral nerve damage. It causes paresthesias and ataxia and hypoglycemia. So these are the main symptoms which occur due to burning feet syndrome, nutritional melalgia or peripheral nerve damage. Then there is a disease which is called as pantothenic kinase associated neurodegeneration or Haller-Walden-Spart syndrome. This pantothenic kinase neurodegeneration and Haller-Walden-Spart syndrome, it is a rare autosomal recessive disorder and it is associated with symptoms of chorea, dystonia, Parkinson symptoms and pyramidal tract lesions. It has symptoms of chorea, dystonia, Parkinsonian features and pyramidal tract symptoms. Here on MRI you see decreased intensity of globus pallidus and substantia nigra, and it shows a picture called as eye of tiger appearance. I'll just show you the picture. Okay, it shows eye of tiger appearance and it also shows some hyper intense areas. It shows eye of tiger appearance. In the eye of tiger appearance it shows hyper intense areas with hypo intense area. Within hypo intense area, I'll show you the picture. Sometimes it is also called as acanthocytosis. Then if you see the neuropathology, there is excessive accumulation of iron containing pigments in globus pallidus and substantia nigra. There is excessive accumulation of iron containing pigments in globus pallidus and substantia nigra. Okay, let me just show you the picture of this. So if you see, this is the MRI picture showing eye of tiger appearance, where if you see there is hypolucent area. This is hypolucent area inside the hyperlucent area. This is hyperlucent, this is hypolucent. So there is hyperlucent area inside the hypolucent area. This is eye of tiger appearance. If you see here, this is the eye of tiger appearance in coronal imaging, and here you can see in many places. See, this is eye of tiger appearance. Here there is inside there is hyperlucent white area in black around, surrounded by black center. So this is again here. Okay, so this is eye of tiger appearance, which is Haller-Walden-Spart disease. So if you see histology feature, this is the picture showing Prussian blue stain. Okay, in Prussian blue stain, iron appears as blue color. So all this is the iron deposits which you are seeing in blue color. Okay, so this is about the pantothenic acid. Now next, so in folic acid is vitamin B9. Okay, so this folic acid is derived from folium. What is folium? Folium is leaf. So there is something called as 5-formyl tetrahydrofolate. This 5-formyl tetrahydrofolate is the most stable form of folate and it is used pharmacologically as folinic acid. This 5-formyl tetrahydrofolate is used pharmaceutically as folinic acid. The synthetic component of this folic acid is leucovorin. Leucovorin is the synthetic component. So if you see biochemical assessment, we have serum folate. The normal level of serum folate is 2 to 20 nanogram per ml. We have RBC flow rate. In biochemical assessment, you can assess the serum folate and RBC cell folate can be assessed. There is something called as histidine load test or Figlu excretion test. In this, if you give histidine in the presence of folic acid deficiency, there will be excretion of form-immunoglutamic acid, which is Figlu. Okay, then we have amino-imidazole carboxamine ribose 5-phosphate excretion test is also seen. That is ICAR test, which is amino-imidazole carboxamide ribose 5-phosphate excretion test. There is also serum homocysteine. Then if you see the deficiency are because of decreased tetrahydrofolate. Tetrahydrofolate is involved in purine and thymidine synthesis, and as a result there is decreased DNA synthesis. Okay, it also causes megaloblastic anemia. Then because the conversion of homocysteine to methionine requires vitamin B 9 or folic acid, and as a result there is homocystinemia, which increases the risk of cerebrovascular side effects and cardiovascular defects. There can be neural tube defects like spina bifida which occur during pregnancy, because folic acid is necessary for neural tube development. It can also cause atrophic glossitis and depression. So all these are the clinical features which occur due to deficiency of folic acid. Then whenever there is low folate levels, there is impaired methylation of CpG islands in DNA. Because of low folate level, there is impaired methylation of CpG islands in DNA. This will lead to increased development of colorectal and other cancers. Because of that, there is increased development of colorectal and other cancers. So there is, whenever there is prophylactic folic acid during pregnancy, this prophylactic, so we should give prophylactic folic acid during pregnancy. If we give prophylactic folic acid during pregnancy, it decreases the occurrence of acute lymphoblastic leukemia. It also decreases the occurrence of neural tube defects in babies. There is increased transformation of pre-neoplastic colorectal cancer, colorectal polyp to cancer. So we will have to give folic acid supplement to prevent that transformation. Then it is mainly helpful in 1-carbon metabolism. Okay, then if you see, it is also required for the production or synthesis of certain amino acids, purines and pyrimidines. See, this folic acid has 3 components. One, we have pteridine ring, we have para amino benzoic acid and glutamic acid. We have pteridine ring, para amino benzoic acid and glutamic acid. Now pteridine ring combines with para amino benzoic acid to form pteroic acid. Now this pteroic acid combines with glutamic acid and it forms folic acid. Now if one glutamic acid residue is present, then that is called as steroyl glutamic acid. We can call it as steroyl glutamic acid, right? Now what is the active form? Active form is tetrahydrofolic acid is the active form of folic acid. So this is the chemical structure showing pteridine, para amino benzoic acid and glutamate. Okay, then if you see absorption, folic acid in diet is seen as polyglutamate. It is absorbed as polyglutamate. Here the pteroic acid is attached to many glutamate bonds. So that is the reason, that is 3 to 7 glutamate residues are held by peptide bond. So we call it as polyglutamate. If only one glutamate residue is present, we call it as steroyl glutamate. But in our diet, folic acid is absorbed as polyglutamate. So this polyglutamate does not, it is not absorbed. It is found in the diet as polyglutamate, but this is not absorbed in the intestine because of this complex form. So what happens? This polyglutamate, this folic acid has polyglutamate now conjugates in duodenum and ileum with glutamate residues, and it forms folic acid. So this folic acid with glutamate, they both are separated, and this will lead to the this will become more simpler form, and as a result it is absorbed in the intestine, and inside the cells this folic acid monoglutamate will now again converted to folic acid polyglutamate, and it is stored in the liver. Okay, so this is one important thing. Next, what are the stores of vitamin B9? The body stores are 10 to 12 milligrams of folic acid, which lasts for around 2 to 3 months. In circulation, it is seen as N5-methyl tetrahydrofolate form. It is seen as N5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. So if you see biochemical function, this is involved in 1-carbon metabolism. So tetrahydrofolate serves as an acceptor or donor of 1-carbon atom. For 1-carbon unit, it serves as either acceptor or donor of 1-carbon unit. So here in 1-carbon unit binds to tetrahydrofolate at either N5 or N10 position or both N5 and N10 position of toroidal structure. I'll just show you the structure so that you will understand. Okay, first I'll show you here. So if you see, this one carbon unit will bind with tetrahydrofolate at either N5 or N10. So it binds either at N5 root or N10 tetrahydrofolate. Okay, and once it binds over there, it leads to it forms to the attachment of N5 N10 methyl dimethyl tetrahydrofolate. If it binds only to 5 position, at 5th position, then it forms N5 formyl tetrahydrofolate. Okay, now these are important. What are important is these. So here we have tetrahydrofolate, THF1 carbon derivative and R group. So N5 formyl tetrahydrofolate binds to CHO, whereas N10 formyl tetrahydrofolate binds to CHO. Both these will bind to CHO. N5 form imino. See, imino is there. So this is imino bond. So obviously it binds to imino bond. It is methylene. Methylene is ene. Ene is triple bond. Methinyl. Methinyl is double bond. Methyl is single bond. So this is how you can remember. Formyl is aldehyde. So CHO, CHO. Okay. So tetrahydrofolate carbon derivative and its R group is also important. So last chart, if you see, this is the one carbon metabolism of tetrahydrofolate. So glycine and tryptophan, they will lead to formation of formate. So this formate, in the presence of tetrahydrofolate, it forms N10 formyl tetrahydrofolate, and this is used in the production of purines and formyl methionine. Then this histidine gives rise to Figlu. This Figlu, in the presence of tetrahydrofolate, it forms N5 form imino tetrahydrofolate. This will form N5 N10 methinyl tetrahydrofolate, which is used in the production of purines. Then serine, which is the most important one carbon compound, in the presence of tetrahydrofolate and glycine, it forms N5 N10 methylene tetrahydrofolate, which will form serine and thiamidylate. Folate and betaine, in the presence of tetrahydrofolate, it forms N5 methyl tetrahydrofolate, which is involved in the conversion of homocysteine to vitamin B12. Here B12 again gets converted to methionine, again methionine gets converted to S-adenyl homocysteine, then homocysteine is replenished. Though you don't remember this cycle, it's not necessary. What is very important are the compounds which are involved in one carbon metabolism. They are glycine, tryptophan, histidine, serine, then choline and betaine are the compounds which are involved in first one carbon metabolism. The compounds which are formed in one carbon metabolism are mainly purines. Serine is formed, thiamidylate DTMP is formed, and vitamin B12 is formed. Okay, so these are the compounds which are involved in one carbon metabolism. So what is the recommended dietary allowance? Recommended dietary allowance is 200 micrograms, and in pregnancy it is required 400 micrograms is required in pregnancy, and 300 micrograms is required in lactation. 400 micrograms is required in pregnancy and 300 micrograms is required in lactation. Then we have dietary. In the dietary we have green leafy vegetables, grains, cereals, liver and kidney and yeast. All these can be used as dietary sources. Okay, so this is about folic acid. Thank you guys for watching my lecture. In the next class we will learn about the deficiency of this folic acid and also vitamin B12, A, D, C. Thank you guys for watching my lecture. Thank you.